So, what is going on in the facial recognition world right now? Where are we at there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's lots going on kind of both in the offense and defensive positions there. Um, we had a lot of success over the last year just in terms of kind of getting the word out about how dangerous this technology is. And, that led to legislation being introduced at the federal level that would ban all law enforcement and government use of facial recognition in the US, which is huge. It was introduced by Ed Markey and Pramila Jayapal and a few other members of both the House and Senate. We're expecting that to get reintroduced. So that's kind of the main legislative vehicle that we're looking at. But I think what's particularly interesting is there's increasing scrutiny on not just government and law enforcement use of this technology, but private and corporate use as well. And I think that's really, really important because I actually think some of the more kind of mundane seeming uses of facial recognition are some of the most insidious because they risk normalizing this practice of having our faces scanned and handing over our sensitive biometric information to private corporations. And there's stuff that corporations can do with that data that is just as scary and harmful as what a government can do. So just to give you like a few nightmare scenarios, a slot machine is analyzing your face and detects when you're getting frustrated and thinking of quitting playing and then gives you a little payout to keep you gambling, right?
Oh, no.
That is like the reason that scenario is so terrifying is because it's like beyond plausible. Like someone is working on that right now. I promise you. Or a job in, we saw HireVue, which has actually now been abandoned by a lot of companies. I think they actually turned off the facial analysis element of their product. But, this is coming in the future where you're doing a job interview. They are analyzing your face and trying to decide whether you're trustworthy based on an algorithm's impression of your eye movements. We could see facial recognition being used at music festivals to track where you go, how often you go to the bathroom, how often you go to the bar, what artists you came to see so that we can target you with advertising afterwards or to enforce rules. Fortunately, I will say with music festivals, and I think you probably know this, Ron, but we actually ran a campaign that got more than 40 of the world's largest music festivals to say that they won't do that, including Bonnaroo and Coachella and South by Southwest. I wrote a piece with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine about that. That's up in BuzzFeed. And we had similar success with colleges and universities. We got more than 60 of the country's most prominent institutions to say that they won't allow the use of facial recognition on their campuses. So you can sort of see where, we're kind of at a turning point here where this technology is spreading really fast, but backlash to it is also spreading really fast. And I just think it's really crucial that we draw the line in the sand here again, and not only focus on the government use. Obviously, like the nightmare scenario is like flying killer robots with facial recognition that like murder you in your sleep. That is bad. That's really bad.
That is bad, and that should be an album and nothing else.
Yes. But some of these, the idea of like this kind of creeping into our society where you start with like, oh, well, I can just use my face to like take money out of the ATM and I don't have to remember my card, and I can use my face to buy a burrito, and I can use a face like when I check in at the hospital. All of that stuff like sort of seems convenient or nice, but what it's doing is it's building the infrastructure for a surveillance state, for a biometric surveillance state that can very quickly be turned and weaponized against us. So that's where sort of the frontier at which Fight for the Future is focusing on right now. We recently released a letter with about 20 other civil rights, racial justice, privacy organizations calling for a ban on corporate and private use of facial recognition, which is, and I think it's one of the first efforts coordinated around that so far. So excited about that.
And just another thing to mention here, I believe that the music festival campaign you mentioned, that is where your T-shirt is referencing. That's what your T-shirt says. No music for ICE.
Yeah, actually, it's related. So No Music for ICE was a project that a bunch of artists, including like the folks from Downtown Boys and Sadie Dupuis from Speedy Ortiz, and I'm going to forget people, so I'll stop mentioning folks now, and otherwise I'll be like, shoot. But yeah, a bunch of artists led a letter specifically targeting Amazon around Amazon's contracts with ICE and Border Patrol. And it did mention Amazon's recognition, use as sale of facial recognition to police as well. But yeah, it was focused on basically demanding that Amazon cut ties with ICE. And it was an artist boycott of having our music on Amazon's music streaming. So that effort did very much dovetail into the facial recognition campaign, and a lot of the same artists participated. So yeah, no music for ICE. It's a cool shirt. You can get it through the Fight for the Future store.
Oh, brilliant. That is a cool shirt. I got to pick one up. And yeah, I've been listening to Downtown Boys a lot recently, and I'm now, it's hitting me now that it was your Twitter feed that turned me on to them. I think I saw you tweet about that band, and they're also Northeast, right? They're Rhode Island.
I think so. Yep. Yeah, and a lot of those folks are similarly involved in the Union of Musicians and Allied Workers, who are leading that Justice at Spotify campaign, and who are working with Fight for the Future on the Stop Spotify Surveillance.org campaign as well. So, little, small world and lots of concentric circles. But it's awesome to see, even in the midst of the pandemic and with so much going on, artists and activists and people out there coming together and trying to address harm where we can, and fight to make things better.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and